Hello everyone, in this tutorial we'll be looking at the input blocks and we'll be going through from on button A pressed till the pin 0 is pressed. Now the reason we won't be going through all of the code block in this tutorial is because they can be difficult to understand and there are actually many of the input code blocks. So we'll go through the few of them in this video and in the next video we'll go through further. So let's start with this on button A pressed. Now in this code block, what's going to happen is that when you're gonna press this A button on the simulator, a code will be executed. So let's say if I copy this code block here, which says that on button A pressed, let's say I'll show a happy face and I'll also do another one on button B this time, and I'm going to copy show icon, let's say sad face. Now if I run my code, and you'll notice that if I press the button A, happy face is shown. If I press button B, sad face is shown, and I can also add the other option, which is both button A and B are pressed. Then let's say I can show another icon, which is home, or maybe we can show this home here. So now if I run my simulator again, you can see that this A plus B button is now available. If I press this, the home is shown. If I press B, sad face is shown. If I press A, the happy face is shown. Now let's delete all of them. So the next code block we'll be looking at is the on shake. Now on shake basically runs the code when you shake the simulator or when you actually shake the physical device. So what we're going to do is that we're going to show a number between 1 to 6 when the simulator is shaken. So to do that, we're going to put this show number, and then from the math section we can say pick random, and I'll say that pick a number from 1 to 6. So now when I run the code, you'll notice that in the simulator we have this shake button. Let me run the code again. And now if I press the shake button, basically what's happening is that physically we are shaking this simulator. And now when I press the shake button again, 1 is shown. Now if you want to run this in your real device and test it, you can download it from here, and when you copy the file, you'll see that whenever you shake your microbit, different numbers are shown on your LEDs. Let's delete this code and now look at our next code block, which is on pin 0 pressed. So this is also pretty similar to press A, press B and press shake. So here you can see we have 3 pins. So what we can do is, let's say when the press 0 pin is pressed, I can show this heart icon, and if I now run the code, you can see that the heart icon is shown. If I do the same for press P1 pin, let me run the code, and now if I press the P1 pin, you will see that the heart icon is shown. And if I, let's say, copy this on pin again, and this time I'll choose pin 2, and maybe this time I'm gonna show a number 0. Now if I run the code and press pin 2, you can see number 0 is shown, but if I press pin 1, you can see the heart is shown. So now let's delete this code and let's look at our next code block, which is button A is pressed. Now this code block is basically, you can see there is a difference in the previous code blocks and this one. So these code blocks, basically you are allowed to have other code blocks inside these code blocks, the first 3. But this code block returns you a value of a boolean. Now what is a boolean value? It's basically just a simple true or false. So notice that its shape is hexagon, and every code block which is of shape hexagon returns you a boolean value. Now you cannot use this code block by itself. You kind of need to put this code block in a logical or a condition. So to demonstrate this, I'll go to logic and I'll quickly grab this if condition here. So here you can see that it says if true then, but what I can do is I can put this code block inside my if condition, and now what it's saying that if the button A is pressed, then I can run some code. So what I can do is I can put a show number here, and also what I can do is I can put this if condition in my forever code block. So let me run this, and now if I'll press the A button, you can see that number 0 is shown. Now let's look at this again with press B button. So I'll bring the logic again, and again I'm going to get this if code block, but this time I will choose, let's say, press button B, and maybe I'll show an icon of heart. So if I run the code block, you can see that if I press button B, heart is shown. If I press button A, 0 is shown. And the same case is for A plus B. So if the both the buttons are pressed together, then another code block is going to run. So let's delete this code block. And the next code block we're going to look at is this acceleration. Now, acceleration is basically the measure of how quickly the speed is changed. And with this acceleration, you can figure out how fast a person is moving this simulator or moving the actual hardware really. Here you see the microbit, and this chip in the circle is our accelerator. It can measure acceleration in all three dimensions, that is left and right, front and back, up and down. Let's now make a code, and the way to demonstrate is that I'll go to this LED section and I'll simply grab this plot bar graph, and I'm going to put this acceleration, and I'm checking the acceleration of my x-axis, and biggest value that I can get is 1023. So what I'll do is I'll run this code block, and also I'll show you this simulator here. Now let's run the code, and you can see that we have this graph showing up, and because we are measuring the x value, which is basically left and right, so x-axis is left and right, so you'll notice that whenever I move my mouse to left, you can see that it measures this value, and also if I move it to right or left, it measures the value. But if I move my mouse up or down, you can see that my graph does not changes, and it does not measure or basically change the value, because we are only measuring for x value this time. So x value again is left or right. Now let's stop this simulator, and let's go back and change this maybe value from x to y. So this time if we'll run our code, we'll show the simulator, and if I run my code, so this time it's all about going forward and back, so forward and back. Now you can see that if I move my mouse left or right, my value hardly changes. So we are measuring our forward and backward, so this is our y index. Now it's hard to demonstrate z, but I'm sure you get the idea of it. So let's delete this code block now, and let's finally go to our pin 0 is pressed. Now again, this you'll notice that this pin 0 is pressed is similar to button A is pressed. So you can see the shape is hexagon, so it means that we have to put it in a logic or condition. So I'll grab this if block and put this in if, and I'll show the number 0 if my pin 0 is pressed, and let's put another logic, and here I'll put my pin 1, so I'll put pin 1 here, and maybe we'll show an icon. So if I run my simulator, so if I press 0, you can see number 0 is shown. If I press 1, you can see my heart LED is shown. So that's it for this tutorial. Hope you learned a lot and join me in the next tutorial.